secrets lay sleeping. Oh, yeah. Squatchdtv, they're on the case. Steve and Chris, no mystery they can't face. Busting hoaxes, exposing lies. They're the champs of the Bigfoot Mystery. Mystery. Bringing truth, science, and clarity. Squatchdtv, they're the real deal. Uncovering the truth, it's time to reveal. Squatchdtv, take us on your quest. Find the legend, put the rumors to rest. Late at night, shadows creeping. Deep in the woods, secrets lay sleeping. Oh yeah. Squatchdtv, they're on the case. Steve and Chris, no mystery they can't face. Busting hoaxes, exposing lies. They're the champs of the Bigfoot Mystery. Bringing truth, science, and clarity. Squatchdtv, they're the real deal. Uncovering the truth, it's time to reveal.
Welcome to Squatch-D where the truth is first before all else. Join your hosts, veteran investigator, TV personality, and author Steve Kulls, and from the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Project and the Kentucky Fried Fixes channel, Chris Bennett. Sit back and prepare to take yourself on a journey with the longest-running Bigfoot podcast, Squatch-D. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D for today's date, July 21st, 2024. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective Steve Kulls, along with my co-host right down there, Mr. Chris Bennett. What's up, Chris?
Steve, man, it's good to see you. I'll tell you, we've been having a lot of heat wave here lately. What about it? How's it been like in New York?
Not bad. Not
really?
Bad. Well, I've been keeping it, but not bad.
Well, it was hot. I was outside today helping the boys. My boys were working on one of the lawnmowers here around the house so we could get the yard mowed. And, didn't mow it today, but hopefully Andy will be able to head out and see if he can get that done tomorrow. But
sir.
I went out there with him and I was sweating. I mean, boy, I was hot.
I took the weed whacker out today, and I worked up a little bit of a sweat today, so
I can imagine.
So anyway, we were going to have a show Friday, and what happened was I got so involved into the topic that I realized that, number one, probably a 1 hour show is not going to really cut it.
Right. And
number two, the material I wanted to present, I'd rather have quality over quantity. And that's why, it was like, okay, we're not going to do a show today. The wife was home anyway. So it was like, let's just make a really kick-ass show for Sunday night.
Save it for Sunday so we can dig deep. That's good.
That's right. And we got a lot of material to cover tonight. And I hope everybody takes this nice leisurely stroll over the last 4 million years, maybe even beyond. This is going to be very interesting. We're going to, and if you're tuning in, you're going to want to listen towards the end because we save the best for last, and some very interesting divergences that we need to talk about. So if you're in here, you're going to want to listen to this to the end. It's going to be,
some new stuff.
Yeah. It's not necessarily new. I mean, it's material that's been out there for about 9 years. Actually a little less than 9 years. But the material isn't really in the forefront anywhere.
There's some things about it that are going to be new.
That's right. Absolutely. Okay, let's do our roll call for it.
And
And
whoa, long ways up. The chat is hopping tonight. I had to scroll a long ways up. Hey,
there it is. The chat is hopping. Chris called it. Okay, first in tonight, Pat Collins in. Turn the AC unit and AC on. There's Mick. Mick is in the house. Pete H. Relic coming in. He'll be with us tomorrow, watching us on the replay.
Yeah.
Sharon, same thing. Sharon's, Relic is from over in the UK. Sharon's from Belgium. Lance Windsor, good to see you, Lance. Don Come Out Jr., hello. Walter Kroll, hello, Walter. Daniel Weeks, what's going on? Jim, traveling with Jim, how are you? Sandra Piper, hello. Buttworm, what's up, Buttworm? Matt, Central Florida, Bigfoot, what's going on, brother? Yeah. Boris Kahn, hello. Jen the Bouncer, she's in the house. Hello, Jen. Arthur Watch, hello, Arthur. Jeff D. Smith, Grasshopper.
50.
Hey, Randy Stewart. Randy, good to see you, brother. Yes, and just so you know, he left a message in chat. WRK is looking for people to be on our show about Bigfoot experiences you might have had. If interested, please contact him, and it's right down there. WRO. Yep. Give him a shout. He's a great guy. Great dude. Gary Johnson Sr., Gary Johnson in the house. Brian and Chewy go hiking.
Brian?
Hello.
I caught part of your documentary today, Brian. It's pretty good. I've only caught about 15 minutes, but it's looking good. I like it.
DM Sabo, hello. Mrs. Trackway, hello. So now we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. John, Sasquatch Wizard and Adirondacks. What's up, brother? And we're scrolling a little bit more here. Angel Nolan. Hello, Angel. Good to see you.
I'm scrolling so I won't get lost. Randall Stewart. Randy, welcome.
Yep, that's Randy. Yep. Little Kilroy. My uncle was a Squatch. Blake Burrows said, Quest for Fire, Aryan Maiden. Really good.
Blake.
Tennessee Cherokee. Hello, Tennessee. Good to see you.
See you.
Timberline Camp. Hey, what's going on, Timberline? Good to see some new names in here on a regular basis. That's always fun.
Yes, it is.
Blue Ridge Bigfoot. And yes, I did get the pick. We'll be taking a look at it this week. I'll let you know what I think online. Okay.
I think you got everybody. And hello to our lurkers out there. We appreciate you guys listening.
So, Boyd, we've got quite the show now. Unlike the title says, are we going to talk about Bigfoot using fire? No. The Quest for Fire was a film in the 1980s that was about prehistoric people.
Was that the one that had Ray Don Chong in it, or was that
Daryl Hannah? Daryl Hannah.
Oh, Daryl Hannah. No, wait a minute. I think maybe that was Clan of the Cave Bear or something.
Oh, yeah, maybe it was. Maybe it was Clan of the Cave Bear. I don't know.
There has been so many. But, hey, I'm not one to turn down a good caveman show, especially if it's hot in the afternoon or cold winter's day.
Well, of course, we're going to start. You know what? I forgot to do. I should have done a Flintstones one. But anyway, before we start off, a very interesting little tidbit came across in my research. And it just so happened was that I was actually watching one of the paleoanthropologists talk about his discovery, one of which we will be talking about tonight, and that's why you got to stay towards the end. But it was a follow-up video that said, that's really interesting. And it was about speech. And it was about how humans have speech. Now, let me just get off on a quick tangent before we start with the very tidbit of information. Is that I really believe that there is a crypto linguist, Scott Nelson, who claims that Sasquatch has a language, but speaking grunts and growls and whistles and clicks and whatnot is not necessarily language. It may be a form of communication, and chimpanzees use that, and gorillas use that, and orangutans use that. But that does not mean that does not a language it make. So that is very interesting. And what sponsored me to actually say this was that adding a human speech related gene such as FOXP2 to a mouse has led to some fascinating results. That's right. There was these German geneticists who added the speech gene to mice to see what would happen. Now, obviously, the mice weren't having conversations, but the FOXP2 is a gene associated with speech and language in humans. Here's what researchers found when they introduced this gene into mice. Altered vocalizations. The mice with the human FOXP2 gene exhibited changes in their ultrasonic vocalizations. These changes suggested that the gene could influence the sounds the mice produced, potentially providing insight into the gene's role into human speech. So they were able to vocalize a little bit more. Neural changes. There were observable changes in the brain structure and function of the modified mice. These changes were particularly evident in areas of the brain associated with motor control and learning, which are crucial for speech and language in humans.
Well, the FOXP2 gene, that's one they used?
Yes, correct.
That sounds like something that these young guys could use to hit on a girl. Hey, baby, you got a nice FOXP2 gene there.
That's it.
I like the way you talk.
Your neuromotor functions are pretty good.
Hey, man, that's right.
Hey, we want to shout out to Kathy Zabrowski. She's new in chat there. Hello, yeah. Kathy. Good to see you.
Welcome, Kathy.
A
few more have wandered in the door since we got started.
Yep, sure did. Synaptic plasticity. The mice showed changes in synaptic plasticity, which refers to the ability of the synapses, the connections between the neurons, to strengthen or weaken over time. This plasticity is essential for learning and memory in humans, and it is crucial for language acquisition. So,
I could use a shot of that, I think.
Motor learning. The altered mice displayed enhanced motor learning abilities. This suggests that the human FOXP2 gene may contribute to the fine motor skills required for articulate speech. While these findings are intriguing, it's important to note that adding a single human gene to mice does not make them capable of speech. Instead, the research helps scientists understand the genetic and neurological foundations of speech and language and how these may have evolved in humans. So,
very cool.
Yeah, fascinating that they could drop that gene in mice and they automatically started. I mean, it was kind of fun watching the scientists talk about it. It's that the mice sounded different. They squeaked differently. You know, it was
yeah. We're talking about some sort of new mouse language maybe being created there.
Yeah, it's just unreal.
Things that make you go,
So I thought that was really a cool story to share with everybody. All right, here we go.
Love it.
So tonight we're talking about Bigfoot and Ancestry, and this is a very simplistic chart, which kind of shows exactly where things broke off in terms of years. 40 million years ago, we started having some breaks with the Primisians, the New World monkeys, the Old World monkeys, gibbons, and then eventually they go up to, us lovely hominids. Very simplistic chart. I like this one much better. And this is going to kind of show us where the breaks were in human charts. You see where the Ardipithecus broke off on the tree in terms of years, where the Australopithecines broke off, and how the pan or the chimpanzees and bonobos broke off from the Australopithecines. How the Homo branch breaks off, and of course the paranthropus to the other side, of course. So a very, very interesting break. It kind of shows people a little bit
Roundabouts, yeah. How many
roundabout
million
way
years ago? Right.
and how and where. Like to me, this really says, okay, now I understand. This is where the Australopithecines broke off. This is where the Paranthropus broke off. Now, when we talk about Sasquatch, a lot of times we talk about the Australopithecines, we talk about the Paranthropus, different types of Paranthropus. And every once in a while, somebody will come up with an Ardipithecus. Like, of course, the Gigantopithecus, which is the giant ape, subfamily of Pongidae, which also includes the modern orangutans. While orangutans and Gigantopithecus share a common ancestor, orangutans are not direct descendants of Gigantopithecus. The evolutionary lineages of Gigantopithecus and modern orangutan diverged millions of years ago. Therefore, the closest living relatives of Gigantopithecus are the orangutans, but they are not its descendants. So if you think about that, the branch broke off, but they're not, they weren't in line.
Right.
So
some of the stuff could have been passed along too, like the hair color, things like that.
Right. But I am very uncommittal to the Gigantopithecus being a direct relative of a Sasquatch, other than its size. And of course, for that time period, many animals were much larger. Saber-toothed tigers, the woolly mammoth, they were all very large and robust.
Well, the size matches. Also, the makeup. Well, I should say the theoretical makeup of the skull, because they created the skulls with partial jawbones, but
yes.
the skull shape, the theoretical skull shape matches in the
right.
size.
Right.
In some cases, the color.
Yeah, I'm still not buying that it is a form of orangutan. For whatever reason, I just, hard to say. I'm not the biggest. I'm not convinced 100% on it.
Right.
But could be the other, and of course, if we look at our branch, the Pongidae was on that left side of that chart.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this chart up so I can show it for everybody when we need to go back. That way we can just go.
Well, I like the chart. I don't think they.
That's why I can go back to this and go back to this like that.
Yeah. I like that.
So,
I don't think they included great apes in this. I don't see Gigantopithecus in there. This is more or less background of the more.
Well, if we go back to our first charts, your majority of your Pongidae came from your Ardipithecus. So they came down a little bit lower than the chimpanzee. They came out lower than the chimpanzees.
Yeah. So there's a few of the pongids included in here with the hominids, the
right?
Homo, floresiensis, Homo.
Well, they're not a pongid. No, if they have Homo in their name, they're not pongids.
The chimpanzee would be a
right, but if you look at the chart there, the chimpanzees are off to the side. They're a pan.
I got you.
And chimpanzees are pan troglodyte. That's their actual scientific name.
Well, I think there should be there's evidence, which we'll discuss upcoming, that should put Bigfoot on that chart back there.
Right. Correct.
Coming up.
Okay, so as we roll on, the paranthropus, as an extinct genus of robust hominids, does not have any known direct descendants. This genus, which lived approximately 2.6 and 1.1 million years ago in Africa, includes species such as Paranthropus boci, Paranthropus robustus, and Paranthropus epipicus.
Yeah, I don't know.
Epipicus, yeah.
I can't do it either.
Paranthropus species are characterized by their robust cranial and dental features, which suggest they had a diet consisting of tough, fibrous plant material. Despite their specialized adaptations, they eventually went extinct, and there's no evidence to suggest they left any direct descendants. The hominid lineage that led to modern humans, Homo sapiens, is separate from that of Paranthropus. Modern humans are more closely related to the genus Homo, which includes species like Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and Homo neanderthalensis. Paranthropus represents a side branch of the hominid family tree that did not contribute to the ancestry of contemporary humans. That makes a lot of sense. If you see there it is. Right there. So.
Oh, look at that skull shape. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yes. Oh, the Paranthropus
he's a very
Athecopus.
He's a very apey looking guy there, you know.
He sure is. Sure is. Okay, next. Okay, the Australopithecines, which of course on our chart is over here yonder.
Oh, okay, left side, around 2 million years ago.
Yeah, and that's where the parantroglodytes eventually diverged from. Australopithecus is a genus of hominins that lived in Africa between 4.2 and 2 million years ago. It is one of the best known and studied early human ancestors, known for its combination of human-like and ape-like characteristics. Here are some points about the Australopithecus and its significance in human evolution. Bipedalism. Australopithecus species were among the first hominins to exhibit bipedalism, a key trait that differentiates early humans from other primates. Their pelvic and leg structures indicated they walked upright. Skull and teeth. They had relatively small brains, ranging from about 3, blah blah blah, which is larger than modern apes, but smaller than later hominins. Their teeth and jaws were more robust than modern humans, adapted to it for a diet that likely included hard and fibrous plant materials. Hang on. They generally are a small body with adults standing about 3.5 to 5 feet tall, weighing about between 55 and 100 pounds.
Sounds about like a chimpanzee, doesn't
it? Notable species, the Australopithecus afarensis, one of the most famous species known for fossils such as the well-preserved partial skeleton Lucy, discovered in Ethiopia. Australopithecus afarensis lived between 3.9 and 2.9 million years ago and provided significant insights into early bipedalism. So, they are considered to be a transitional form between earlier, more ape-like ancestors and later hominins, including the genus Homo. Their bipedal adaptations and dental changes are significant evolutionary steps. Environment and adaptation. They lived in a variety of environments, few woodlands to open savannas, and their physical adaptations reflect a versatile lifestyle that included both climbing and terrestrial locomotion. This is something we're going to find very common here. Is the difference between a bipedal creature, which has a very solid, sturdy mid-foot structure, versus a climber, which has a very flexible midfoot, aka mid-tarsal break. Right. So you're gonna hear us interchange those terms over the course of the program tonight, but. A lot of the Australopithecines did have a very flexible midfoot, and most of them actually were one of the few that had a mid-tarsal break. Species like the Australopithecus afarensis, example Lucy, exhibited a combination of bipedal and The foot structure showed some traits indicative of a mid-tarsal break, suggesting they retained some climbing adaptations. The Ardipithecus, and if we even move down that chart a little bit, another hominin that had with the Ardipithecus ramidus, which lived about 4.4 million years ago, had a foot structure that had both bipedal walking and tree climbing. The presence of a grasping big toe and other features suggest a flexible midfoot, indicating a mid-tarsal break.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we're going to get more into that too.
I'll tell you, some of the things that I found interesting about these, and I watched different shows about them, but where they would like take the teeth and put those under a microscope, and by viewing the changes in the dental changes, the wear on the enamel and stuff, they could tell about what these guys were living on, what they were eating. And I just thought that's fascinating.
Or their structure of their teeth,
Right.
they're because they have to eat more fibrous.
Right.
Think about the molars of a gorilla, because all they do all along is they chew. And they chew on fibrous materials, because gorillas are herbivores. They're not carnivorous whatsoever. Chimpanzees are omnivores.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Some of those rascals are pretty mean, the chimpanzees. They'll kill a monkey and eat it every now and then. Mean little rascals. Never have a pet chimpanzee. No.
So now we get into the next few are the ones very close to us. Of course, we have the Homo neanderthalensis, which better is known as the Neanderthals or Neanderthals. They're an extinct species. They actually lived in Eurasia until about 40,000 years ago. So these guys are not too far off from us.
And some of us still have a little bit of Neanderthal DNA floating around in us, too. Some more than others. I think I got quite a bit.
So, discovering Neanderthals were first discovered in Neander Valley in Germany in 1856. They lived across Europe and parts of Western Asia, from as far Spain to the Altai Mountains in Siberia. Neanderthals had a robust build with strong muscular bodies. They had a large brain case, a prominent brow ridge, and a wider pelvis. Their limbs were shorter and stockier compared to modern humans, which helped them survive colder climates. One of the facts I heard, I actually watched the special today on Neanderthals from Germany, and they were talking about, if Neanderthals were in the Olympics today, they'd be the winners, because their muscle density was they were much stronger than we were. Their bones were denser.
These guys lived a hard life too.
They were workhorses.
Yeah. I remember reading somewhere the amount of bones that they found that had been broken and had healed, the breaks had healed, was shocking. Like, these guys lived a hard life. It wasn't nothing to have a broke leg or a broke arm or something other. And it's just amazing how tough these guys are. Football players, let's sign them up.
Culture and tools. The Neanderthals were skilled tool makers associated with the Mousterian stone tool culture. They made a variety of tools for hunting, butchering animals, and working with wood and other materials. They also used fire, built shelters, and had a diet that included a variety of plant and animal foods. So they were omnivores. Symbolic behavior. Evidence suggests that Neanderthals engaged in symbolic behavior. They buried their dead, sometimes with grave goods, which included some form of ritualistic behavior. They also created art, which, such as carvings and cave paintings, suggesting cognitive complexity and cultural expression. Their genetic legacy. Neanderthals interbred with early modern humans. As a result, many non-African modern human populations have about 1% to 2% of Neanderthal DNA. This genetic contribution has been linked to various traits in modern humans, including aspects of the immune system and even certain diseases. Neanderthals disappeared around 40,000 years ago. The reasons for their extinction are still debated, but likely factors include climate change, competition with anatomically modern humans, and possibly disease.
Trying to go back. I had the page enlarged there. I'm trying to. I've put it back down to regular size. Try to go through the chat here, Steve.
Let me
questions.
That whole climate change excuse seems to be an agenda to me, because really they were adaptable. Neanderthals lived in the Nordics. They lived in the freezing cold. So how could climate change bother them? They lived in a variety of environments and adapted to them.
Well,
so
we're not arguing the fact that the climate change has happened over the last few thousand years, because if it hadn't, I'd still have ice sheets in my backyard. We have been warned.
You know what? If it was up to me, I think what most likely happened to the Neanderthals was they probably interbred themselves into extinction.
Yes.
Right?
100%. Guaranteed. We have evidence of that today.
Yep. Exactly. They probably interbred into extinction. That eventually there was less and less pure-blooded Neanderthals, and eventually they just melded into us.
And this process is highly controversial and highly racist, but it has been done in other countries, or attempted
Yes.
to be done in other countries.
Research and discoveries, advances in genetics, particularly the sequencing of the Neanderthal genome, had provided extensive insights into their biology and relationship with modern humans, which is just flipping phenomenal. We hear these scientists, playing God, saying we're going to bring back the woolly mammoth. We're going to bring back the saber-toothed tiger by introducing their DNA, because now we've sequenced their DNA. We can create it, and we can put it in the womb of a similar animal. And my God, if some sick person decides to take that genome and make a Neanderthal, that'd be horrible. Because it would be, because if you think about it, that poor person being, with number one, they have shown the affinity for language. They have shown the affinity for knowledge and culture and rituals and paintings and artistry. What are you going to do if you did that? What would you do with that person? They would be, they would live a miserable existence. So I hope nobody ever decides or ever thinks about doing that. That is,
I would completely agree with, we should never do that. Now, there are cases to where human existence and our interactions with the environment have caused extinctions. And in that case, I think if we could bring those back that we killed off, we could kind of right a wrong. But things that were selected for extinction by nature, that's out of our hands. That's no fault of our own.
Right.
But should we bring back a dodo bird? Yeah, we should.
Yeah, I mean,
if we could.
I see no problems with the mammoth or any of those other type. But when you're talking about a sentient being, no way. No way.
Stop play Frankenstein.
Excuse me. Sorry, I had to get the frog. I had to get the frog out of my throat from all this reading. So,
Brian McMahon said it seems to be a scam agenda. I think so too. These guys are collecting money, and they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Yeah, they'll probably collect the money, and then, we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it.
Yeah, what kind of climate change happened 40,000 years ago? The Ice Age was 100,000 years ago.
Yes, there's no denying. Okay, the climate has been warming, and it has been done before we ever, started cars and trucks and stuff.
I dare say it that the Neanderthals probably would have invented air conditioning if it got warmer.
They are tough, and
Yes.
you if you were raised in that cold environment. This is even true in modern day times. There was a guy from Alaska that moved into Cave City years ago, and I remember he was the joke because we would drive by and it was 35 degrees. Okay, we had our coats on in the car with the heaters wide open, freezing to death. This dude was out washing his truck in 35-degree weather with shorts on and no shirt. And we're like, oh my God.
Well, that's upstate New York. I mean, Chris.
That was normal. Yeah.
But Chris,
Mm-hmm.
if it gets to be 40 degrees or, in your neck of the woods, everybody bundles up, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Not in my neighborhood. In my neck of the woods, you can still wear shorts in 40-degree weather.
Yeah.
Perfectly acceptable. A coat is optional until it gets below 40 degrees.
Well, I heard tell about this guy, and I thought, you guys you just going on. Just because he's from Alaska don't mean he's that tough or anything. And I drove by the next Saturday, and sure enough, there he was out there washing that thing down with shorts on, no shirt, and shorts and no shirt. That's oh no.
I had a friend of mine who spent 2 weeks in Texas. It was 110 degrees the weeks he was there. Came back, it was 80 degrees. He was freezing cold.
Yeah,
happens.
Oh yeah, the desert Southwest. So that's different. It's a dry heat.
Okay, the Denisovans. The Denisovans are extinct species or subspecies of archaic humans in the genus Homo. They are known primarily from their DNA and a few fossil remains discovered in Denisovan Cave in the Altai Mountains of Siberia. Here are some key points about the Denisovans. Discovery: the first evidence of Denisovans came about from a fragment of a finger bone found in Denisovan Cave in 2008. DNA analysis revealed that it belonged to a previously unknown group of archaic humans. The Denisovans interbred with ancestors of modern humans, particularly those living in parts of East Asia, Southeast Asia, and Oceania. Some modern human populations, especially indigenous people in Papua New Guinea and Australia, carry a small percentage of Denisovan DNA. Anatomy and fossils. Besides the finger bone, other Denisovan remains include teeth and a jawbone discovered in Tibet. These fossils suggest that Denisovans were robust and adapted to living in a variety of environments. So really, I think that whereas, your Neanderthals were your Europeans, your Denisovans were, your Asian, oceanic types. And much like the Neanderthals,
welcome.
Jerry, good to see you. As well as Blake. I see Blake snuck in too. And Marty McTighe. Marty, good to see you. And Finding the Trackway. I see he wasn't in there early. Mrs. Trackway was in earlier.
Good to see you guys. Yeah, the Denisovans is really, if you'll look back a few years, they have destroyed everything that we thought we knew. It's like, oh my God, wait a minute. Right. What happened with these guys are part Neanderthal and part Homo erectus. What's going on here?
Yep.
It's just it's blown their mind. It blew mine too. But.
And Blue Ridge, I agree with you on that point, very much so. So yeah, I really think that and I think hearing this one researcher talk about it this morning when I was doing some more research, basically said, originally when we thought this whole evolutionary thing, we thought it was, step by step by step by step by step. And now we're finding out that among those steps, there's all these interweaving types of other species, and some, they a lot of those species, the Denisovans, Homo erectus, the Neanderthals, they all make up modern human. It's really interesting that there would be this. So in a way, if you think about it, to me, Neanderthal never really went extinct. They just interbred. The same thing with the Denisovans, or the Denisovans. I'm sorry, the Denisovans. They are
or Denisovan.
Yeah, Denisovans. They're Denisovans.
Tomato.
But they've all mixed in with our own DNA, and I think that's how they kind of fettered out. They were, you had Homo sapiens, you had Neanderthal, you had the Denisovans, if you want to call them that, or Denisovans. I found out that either way is the proper way to say it. There is no. It's like Caribbean.
Right. Big changes. That everything we thought we knew in the books was turned out to be wrong, and that leads to the theory that the Neanderthal weren't killed out by a Johnny come lately newer species that was better with weapons and stuff. No, they more than likely just kind of disappeared from the scene through I don't want to say intermarriage, because I don't think they had.
Yeah, and Mick, fact is that it even said that 1 to 2% of the population of the European population has DNA of Neanderthal in them.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Still today, right. And I think it's more prevalent over in on the continent of Asia.
No, it's actually more prevalent to the Europeans for Neanderthals.
Well, I thought it was
No, the Neanderthals are Europeans. The Denisovans are the Asia, Oceania.
Yes. But the modern versions of humans that have Neanderthal DNA
says, as a result, many non-African modern human population have about 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA. So, I don't know.
Look it up.
Because the fact is that where they discovered Neanderthals was actually in Germany.
Yes, that's true.
Yep. They did not. The Denisovans they found in Asia, or actually, the Asian part of Russia, because Russia is such a big country. It read Mick's comment. So
yes, there it is. It is. Yeah, people of East Asian descent generally have more Neanderthal DNA. We're talking about today, okay?
Right. East Asian
than those of compared to European descent, and the reason for that is probably maybe there were more Neanderthals moved
westward.
East.
Well, they
moved east rather than west. Maybe I don't know.
They moved west because they were found in the east. They were found in Europe. So
okay,
who knows? Homo erectus, significant species in the human evolutionary lineage. It is considered one of the most direct ancestors of modern humans, Homo sapiens. Homo erectus lived from approximately 1.9 million years ago to as recently as 110,000 years ago. Not quite as Neanderthal, with a wide geographic range that included Africa, Asia, and possibly Europe. Here are some notable descendants and evolutionary relationships associated with Homo erectus. Homo heidelbergensis. This species, often considered a direct descendant of Homo erectus and lived around 700,000 to 300,000 years ago. Homo heidelbergensis is thought to have given rise to both Neanderthals and modern humans in Africa. So, see, it was given rise to Neanderthals in Europe and modern humans in Africa. Of course, Homo neanderthalis, Homo sapiens, Denisovans. So they're all have lineage to the Homo erectus.
Whew. That's a big family.
Here we are. Homo heidelbergensis is an important species in the human evolution, which is often considered a direct ancestor of both modern humans and Neanderthals. Homo heidelbergensis lived approximately 700,000 years ago to 300,000 years ago, primarily in Africa and Europe, with some evidence suggesting it also lived in Asia. So again, it goes down the list of people. It was, and if we go back to our chart, there's Homo heidelbergensis right there. And you can see Homo erectus spinning off Homo heidelbergensis, Homo neanderthalis. And we're going to get into others. Homo floresiensis. Homo floresiensis is often referred to as the hobbit due to its small stature. It's a distinct species of archaic human that lived in the island of Flores in Indonesia. The species is known from fossils dated to around 100,000 to 60,000 years ago. Again, not too long. Remember, Neanderthals were around 40,000 years ago. So these coexisted with some of the more modern known relatives of ours, with evidence of tool use and possibly even fire. They stood about 3.5 feet tall and had a brain size about that of a chimpanzee. Despite a small brain size, it exhibited advanced behaviors such as tool making. Evolutionary changes, the origins of Homo floresiensis are still debated. There are two main hypotheses. They're a descendant of Homo erectus. The small size of Homo floresiensis might have resulted from insular dwarfism, a process where large animals on islands evolved to become smaller due to limited resources. Right. Hence, if you think about it, that's why we all say the skunk ape is smaller, because, being in that jungle, it's a little difference of resources there as well. Descendant of an earlier hominid, another theory proposes that Homo floresiensis descended from an earlier, more primitive hominid, possibly even before Homo erectus. This would make it a relict species representing a branch of the human family tree that split off very early. Very interesting stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the most fascinating things about Homo floresiensis is the small in stature size, because they were trapped more or less on that island. And I always wanted to get a herd of elephants and put them on an island and then breed small elephants so you could keep one in your house.
Well, then again, it could be because of dietary concerns too. Because they're on an island, they're not getting as much nutrients or as robust nutrients as per se.
Right.
Somebody would in Europe or a more mainland type of climate.
It's the same thing. It's the environment. You can do. I used to raise fish. Okay, I used to love fish, and you can put a goldfish in a bowl, and he'll reach a certain size, and then that's it. If you put that same goldfish in a 55-gallon aquarium, he will grow and he will get much bigger. So it's the environment.
Well, think about, and I have a friend who has a couple of boa constrictors.
Yeah,
and if you can feed them and feed them and feed them, and what happens is they grow. But if you feed them once a day, they stay about 8 foot. But if you keep feeding them, they can grow 12, 16 feet long.
Right.
So.
No pet snakes. No.
So Gary asks, if people don't know what Bigfoot looks like, then how can they guess millions of decades what these things look like? It's called having bones and skulls. So.
Oh.
Despite their small size, Homo floresiensis made and used stone tools and possibly hunted small elephants, stegodon, and large rodents. This indicates a level of intelligence and adaptability compared to other members of the genus Homo. Yep.
Brian, Oscar Razor, me too.
The reasons for the extinction of Homo floresiensis are not entirely clear, but may have been due to volcanic eruptions or competition with modern humans who arrived in the region around 50,000 years ago. Yeah, that kind of makes sense because they were around
Yeah.
60,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. The
So-
modern guys, took them out within 10,000 years. Or they could have died out on their
Right.
own.
right. So here we
Go
are
on.
on the.
Don't want to speculate about primate wars.
So there's Homo floresiensis right up here on our chart.
Right. Fairly close to modern man,
Yep.
And I think, I'm having to reach back here from memory, but when I watched the different shows about Homo floresiensis, they had said there had been reports of sightings of Homo floresiensis, little people.
So as we watch this chart,
Mhm.
you got to understand that when you start seeing these at the very top, these are the dead ends. They stop to exist. They stop to exist. They stop to exist. They stop to exist. This is where they sprung up from.
Yeah.
So
Did we do that?
do what? Not yet.
Do you think? Did we stop them from existing? You think?
No, not at all. Well, in the island case, perhaps.
I think that would be
Perhaps.
that would be arguable.
Because it's a very coincidence that we show up and within 10,000 years they're gone.
Right.
The
Neanderthal. Yeah, I think we were responsible for those disappearing.
And again, it doesn't appear to be a very robust population, which in itself proves troublesome.
That's a problem. Yes.
Which is a very big
no branches on the
argument against the Bigfoot mystery is, you got to have a breeding population to keep evolving and keep moving along. So,
well, that may be one of the reasons why you have a lot of different reports of different body structures and different types. Some of this, of course, inbreeding, it's kind of a weird subject to go into, but dog breeders will, sometimes breed, when they have them registered, will sometimes breed a son to a mother in order to get a pure strain to go one way or the other. Okay. And this would be similar to that. If you had Bigfoot because they didn't have they couldn't go to the prom with anybody else. They go to the prom with their cousin. Okay.
Right. The prom. That's a very nice way of putting it.
Yeah. Trying to be family.
The dance.
Here.
Going to the dance. Okay. Moving right along.
Yeah, let's get off that subject.
Homo habilis. Homo habilis, often considered one of the earliest members of the genus Homo, lived separately 2.4 to 1.4 million years ago in East and South Africa. The name habilis means handyman, reflecting its association with early stone tools. Here are key points about Homo habilis and the significance in human evolution. Tool use. Homo habilis is associated with the Oldowan tool industry, which consists of simple stone tools such as flakes, cores, and choppers. These tools represent some of the earliest evidence of hominids using technology to manipulate their environment and process food. Transitional species. Homo habilis is often seen as a transitional species between the more ape-like Australopithecus and later members of the genus Homo. It represents an important step in the evolutionary of larger brains and more complex behaviors. Let's just put that asterisk in our mind for 1 second, and we're going to come back to something. Adaptive flexibility. The ability to create and use tools suggests that Homo habilis had greater cognitive abilities and adaptive flexibility compared to its predecessors. This flexibility likely played a key role in its survival in early evolutionary successes. Currently thought to be an ancestor of the Homo species, particularly Homo erectus. The evolutionary lineage from Homo habilis to Homo erectus marks significant developments in brain size, tool use, and geographic expansion. Some researchers debate whether Homo habilis should be classified within the genus Homo due to its relatively primitive features. Others argue that its tool use and increased brain justify its inclusion. I agree. Homo habilis represents a pivotal point in human evolution, showcasing the emergence of more advanced cognitive abilities and technological innovation. It bridges the gap between the more primitive Australopithecus and the more advanced members of the Homo genus, highlighting the gradual but significant evolutionary changes that led to modern humans. And I agree, Chuck. We talk about, people ask me all the time, do you think there's more than one species of Bigfoot? No, but there may be racial differences.
Yeah. I think that's valid. Yeah.
I think that's more of a valid point. Like there is, like, and I'm sure you would see some divergence in the Homo habilis and some of the other of different features coming from different areas, like Homo erectus. I'm sure, or the Neanderthals. I'm sure that, weren't there Neanderthals that had blonde hair, and there was Neanderthals that had dark hair, and there was Neanderthals that had red hair. Diversity. So you see that diversity in earlier things, but right now, when you just have bones, you really can't tell skin color or other significant features. Maybe like a cleft lip or different eye shapes and stuff like that. So you don't necessarily see that just having the bones.
And I think it's interesting too that we start noticing with Homo habilis, once the species starts developing wider use of tools and making more advanced tools, their brain sizes start to enlarge because they're getting more protein. They may be having more successful hunts. So rather than having to go out and look for food 24/7 or, however many hours of the day, they can skip it for a few days and sit there and think or look up at the stars. What do you think those things are? Whereas before, they were infatuated with what we're going to eat next. What we're going to eat next. So I think it's just fascinating. I love this stuff.
So here is remember I said, we're going to go back to this point. We talk about mid-tarsal breaks earlier. Again, some early members of the genus Homo, like Homo habilis, may have retained some degree of mid-foot flexibility. Although they had inline toe, but they had a flexible midfoot. Right. So one would think that perhaps because they did not, a Sasquatch is not known to develop tools and stuff like that.
Right.
I would almost think that a Bigfoot ancestor would be prior to Homo habilis. We're getting close. I think we're in that ballpark.
Right. But you've got the inline toes.
Right.
You're missing the structure that would be like a thumb on the foot for grasping. So correct. You've got your inline toes, but still maintains a mid-foot flexibility, like
a mid-tarsal break. Right.
Right. Yep.
But they have a higher cognitive ability than a modern-day Bigfoot would have. They have. They're using tools and they're hunting and they're using tools hunting and they're crafting tools. So
these guys obviously took advantage of fire.
Right. So again, we're looking, if it's a Bigfoot, it's going to come before this, but close. We're getting close, and I think there's a way. In looking at foot structure, if you're looking at foot structure, that is probably the easiest way because foot structure means so much. That's why Jeff Meldrum, the good doctor, has been so important in this, is because foot structure will tell us a lot. It will draw back its origins or where could it possibly come from or where it may not come from. So we're looking for something with a flexible foot with inline toes. And Homo naledi fits that, or Homo habilis fits that bill.
We're getting closer.
And now we are at the main event. Homo naledi is an intriguing species of hominid discovered in the Rising Star Cave System in South Africa, first announced in 2015. This is one of the latest finds in hominids, and it's the Homo naledi. Friggin' incredible. Do I believe a Sasquatch is a descendant of theirs? No, I believe that in actuality, I believe it came much before that. And I'll explain why. But this is so cool. Homo naledi had a combination of traits seen in both Australopithecines and later Homo species. Notable features include skull and teeth. The skull is small with a brain size similar to early Homo species. The teeth are relatively small and human-like. Hands and feet. The hands and feet suggest the capability for tool use with a modern thumb and wrist, more curved fingers. And thank you, Jay. Jay snuck in and just...
Thanks so much, Jay. Appreciate you, man.
Now, here's an interesting thing. In watching, his name escapes me, but the paleoanthropologist that had discovered the cave and examined the bones first.
I'm with you.
The fingers were like the most curved fingers he'd ever seen in a hominid. The bones were curved. Mm-hmm. So they had like these hands that were very bent, right? Which is interesting in that of itself, but it was just a little... They said the feet are quite human-like, and we're going to talk about their feet in a second. Body size, Homo naledi was relatively small, standing about 4.5 to 5 feet tall and weighing about 88 to 123 pounds. Of course, that's not a big deal for the earlier hominins because we got bigger as we got along, for the most part. The initial uncertainty about the age of Homo naledi fossils was resolved with a dating technique revealed that they lived between 335,000 to 236,000 years ago. Right. This period overlaps with the presence of early Homo sapiens in Africa. Yes. So these were contemporaries of Homo sapiens.
Right. They existed at the same time. And although their brain was supposed to be argued about to be about 1/3 the size of modern humans, there is evidence to suggest these guys were using fire. But that's been contested a little bit.
Oh, it's been contested big time.
Yeah, it's
big time.
Controversial.
But, we'll get into all of that fun stuff.
Yeah.
The fossil was discovered in the Naledi chamber of the Rising Star Cave system was challenging to access. I gotta say, watch the NatGeo special.
Yes.
The interview. Watch the scientist interview because he breaks it down how tough it was to get in there. There was one point where there was a 7-inch crawl space, only 7 inches, and a person had to crawl through that. He actually lost 30 pounds so he could go down there, because he couldn't fit in that. And he had to hire, when he was looking to explore the cave and actually bring back specimens using paleoanthropologists. Yeah. He actually enlisted a bunch of young, minute women who were paleoanthropologists that were courageous enough to do that.
Right.
Not only that, but they had to scale down 60 feet down.
Yeah, I was fixing to say it was a lot.
Just unreal with that.
When you watch the documentary, you're going to be shocked at what these people went through.
Phenomenal. I couldn't do it. I'm claustrophobic. I never was, but I had a little traumatic incident while I was firefighter training, actually, that made me claustrophobic afterwards.
I was out at the 7-inch thing to crawl through. Okay, which leg you want me to stick through there? That's it.
I probably could sneak through there myself now if I wasn't so crippled.
I could stick one leg under the ledge, I guess, but that'd be about it. One leg.
Okay, the context of fossil discovery suggests that Homo naledi may have engaged in deliberate body disposal, a behavior previously thought unique to Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. This hypothesis is still debated, but if true, it indicates complex cognitive and social behaviors. Well, that's not necessarily true. They may be disposing of the bodies, but they may like, hey, get Stinky out of here,
Yeah.
over the water into the dark. Goodbye, Phillips. Hello, shark.
Yeah.
Boom, over into the pit
Hey,
you go.
yeah,
Right?
y'all drag this dead one over there. There's a big hole. If you just go back there about 50 yards of the cave, drop it back in the hole. Yeah, a big difference from Neanderthal. Neanderthal, they actually dug the hole and buried their dead within their caves that they supposedly were living in. So a lot of difference there, with some ceremony, maybe.
So Homo naledi's mix of archaic and modern traits challenges simple linear models of human evolution. It suggests that multiple hominin species with diverse adaptations coexisted and possibly interacted. Homo naledi may represent a lineage that branched off into early Homo genus that persisted until relatively recently. So they're not sure where this fits in. This may even be a relative of ours. But then again, we coexisted. So my point is did the naledi actually watch Homo sapiens do this type of behavior and say, hey, we need to do this too, and we're mimicking it? That's a possibility too. Right?
They could have been hiding from Homo sapiens.
Right. Yep. So next. So that is actually the cave, the Rising Star Cave in South Africa. That's the actual cave. I wanted to point out.
Lee Berger was the paleoanthropologist on that project.
Correct. Yep. So as you look, there is the different skull types of. Now, none of them, if you all notice, one of the most prolific signs we see on males in the Bigfoot species is the sagittal crest. So,
these guys have one.
None of them do. None of the Homo erectus, Homo habilis, Homo. So, what does that tell you? It tells me that
we're off in the Pongid line. There's going to be an offshoot of Bigfoot somewhere.
Right. Where did it come from? It just deepens that mystery. But foot structure is the guarantee. Because I forget it was one of the Australopithecines was known as like the pinhead, and that could give the false impression that there is a sagittal crest. That was because their head was kind of pointed,
right?
But it wasn't really a traditional sagittal crest,
right?
So could a Bigfoot be related to an Australopithecine? Or perhaps an early Australopithecine.
They had a long, narrowing skull that did not have as much.
And of course, that would make a lot of sense, because the Australopithecines are what basically sprung up and brought us the chimpanzees and bonobos. So, and then we have the Wonderword Cave, which is where they found the Homo erectus in a lot of early human occupation. This is where they discovered the use of fire in the Wonderword Cave, where, oh my goodness, Homo erectus used fire. Cave contained evidence of human occupation dating back nearly 2 million years. It has yielded some of the oldest known evidence of controlled use of fire by humans, which is a significant milestone in human evolution. Excavations at the cave have uncovered stone tools from different prehistoric periods, including the Oldowan and Alun industries. These tools provide insights into the technology, advancements, and adaptive strategy of early hominids. And that's the Wonderworks Cave there. Not to be confused with the Rising Star Cave. Now, if you want to know the difference in distance between the two,
not that far, really.
Not really. That's the difference between the two. So let's go back to our Homo naledi. Let's see what I got on Homo naledi. I got quite a bit here. Please excuse me while I shuffle some papers.
Well, what got me about the Homo naledi? Okay, there were some claims of the use of fire because they found the soot particles and they found burned or blackened areas, but yet they couldn't prove that it dates back to the Homo naledi era. But their theory, though, is because these rascals explored the cave, they would have used fire to do so.
It's very dark. You can't see,
Either,
but then again, as Dr. Berger, was it? Mentioned that it's hard to tell because, that cave structures, could have moved around, could have been filled in. And, now we only have a 7-inch gap. Whereas, when they existed 300,000 years ago, it could have been just a big open cave. And that's, the result of tectonic shifts and whatnot that made the cave kind of close in. But for some reason, this chamber at the very bottom of all this was kept intact. So luckily,
so yeah, the argument was, for the use of fire, that's why they got around in the cave. Okay. But since there's no way to prove, no way to date the soot particles, I'd imagine, that could be from modern times.
And I don't have the diagram. I didn't see that until I saw the NatGeo special earlier today. But they do what they call the Superman crawl. And that was supposed to be the easy part.
Right.
And they have to literally, the only way you can get into that area, it's so narrow, you have to put your first hand like that. You can only move by doing the Superman, what they call the Superman crawl. And that's by crawling with your one arm in front of you and the other one behind you. Yeah, really.
No.
So here's an article. The question of Homo naledi used fire is a fascinating, controversial topic in paleoanthropology. Based on the current evidence available as the last update in April 2024, here's what we know. Evidence for fire use. In 2022, researchers reported finding what they believe to be evidence of controlled fire in the Rising Star Cave system in South Africa, where Homo naledi fossils were discovered. This evidence included charcoal, burnt animal bones, heat-altered stone tools. The finding is highly debated in the scientific community for several reasons. Dating of the fire evidence is not conclusive and may not align perfectly with the Homo naledi fossils. Some researchers argue that the evidence could be the result of natural fires or even contamination from more recent human activity. Cognitive abilities required for controlled fire use are typically associated with more advanced hominids, making it surprising if Homo naledi indeed used fire. But they were contemporaries of Homo sapiens. What if they learned?
Exactly. Yeah.
What if they saw it?
Right.
They may have been mimicked. You don't know.
He's probably not there today, but there was a chimpanzee in Alamogordo who knew exactly what to do with a cigarette.
Absolutely. Well, here's an interesting thing, though. That's just a hypothesis. There's no way to prove it.
Right.
You have to, like I said, they have to carbon date something to actually get the correct.
Yeah. But their whole argument, though, was because the Homo naledi had a brain about 1/3 the size of modern humans. Their argument was these guys would be too dumb to use fire, and I don't think so.
Yeah, it's entirely. I don't know. We just don't know. They obviously they dropped the bodies into this pit,
right?
And there was no, and like they said, the reason why they did not, like the one thought is, okay, maybe Homo sapiens massacred a bunch of them and threw them down the pit. There was no traumatic or predatory injuries to the bones. The bones were perfect. There was no cut marks in them. There was no, unnatural breaks to them. There was, there's just decomposition and
these individuals had died
naturally,
and they drug them up and threw them down the hole.
But what if they were in that cave and, here's the other thing too. What if they were in that cave and for some reason there was a volcanic gas expulsion in there and killed a bunch of them? That could explain it too. Could also explain the charring. Because it could have been heat.
It could have been a case was one of them's climbing around the back of the cave saying, "Hey, what's in this hole down here?" And then a few years later, another one climbs back there and says, "What's in this hole down here?"
Well, that doesn't explain the infant being there, because they had found a range of an infant to an older age person too. To me, it sounded like a family structure, and I think it sounded like that they all had gotten probably suffocated, or something catastrophic happened to them that had to do with gases. That would, to me, makes a lot of explanation to me. Because caves are, when you go spelunking, there's always that danger you get a release of gases of some sort, depending on where you go. If you go, you can't go cave spelunking in volcanic areas, because those caves can emit sulfuric acid gas. And,
Right.
not.
Or we could go with a more devious theory that a group of Homo sapiens came walking by one day and say, "Hey, that's a nice looking cave. How we get rid of those other guys that's living in there?" And then one of them says, "I got an idea." They could have killed them off and stuck them down the hole.
Yeah, but there was no indication of any traumatic injury.
Right. No
So that way, so any type of attack or predation would not
would have shown up. Right.
And I find that kind of unusual too, because if they were ritualistically burying people and there was 15 different subjects there, and this is just an investigator's take on this, is that
Exactly. It's all fun and good until someone has a Neanderthal, a big light has
hands a Neanderthal a bit lighter than it, yeah. But here's my point to this, is that out of the 15, don't you think one would have died of some traumatic death?
You would think,
So,
animal attack.
so to me, none of them having any type of trauma to their bone structures is indicative to me that maybe there was some other cause of death, like a gas expulsion. Maybe they were living in that cave and sulfuric acid came up and filled up the cave, or carbon monoxide, or or radon, or whatever at that point in time, and gone.
Well, yeah.
Or perhaps maybe they were in there and the cave caved in and they couldn't get out, and they all starved to death.
Yeah. The continent of Africa is a highly volcanic continent. I mean, they have lava that flows like water. It's unbelievable.
So that's entirely possible, and that would explain some of the burning. I mean, for all we know, that there could have been a fire in the cave. A volcanic fire in the cave.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, they may be paleo anthropologists, but did they send a geologist down into the cave? That would be very interesting.
Yeah.
So to me, you're right. There's not enough information to say that they used fire. I can see the arguments for and against it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the problem, proving it,
Right.
You can see soot on a cave wall, but was that done back then, or was that done, 80 years ago?
And it says implications of concern would be a groundbreaking discovery, because Homo naledi had a relatively small brain compared to that of other hominids thought to use fire. It would challenge our understanding of the cognitive requirements for fire use. It suggests that fire use evolved independently multiple times in human evolution. So again, the scientists are continuing to investigate this claim, looking for more evidence and attempting to date the fire use more accurately. While this evidence is intriguing, it is not universally accepted in the scientific community. Neither is Sasquatch either. But the claim of Homo naledi using fire remains a hypothesis that requires further investigation and peer review. And the peer review is not pretty on a lot of it, because now,
even if you couldn't make fire, but you knew how to use fire, can you imagine trying to find fire in the first place? That would be a wild trip. I'll just keep on walking till you find a lightning strike or something somewhere.
Now, the interesting thing about the Homo naledi foot, The foot structure of the Homo naledi has been subject of significant interest because it provides insights into their locomotion and lifestyle. Here's a synopsis of their foot structure. The overall anatomy of the foot of the Homo naledi is similar to that of modern humans, with a structure that suggests a primarily bipedal locomotion. This includes a well-developed arch, kind of leaves Bigfoot out of that one, which is crucial for efficient walking and running. Toes. The toes of the naledi are generally short, similar to those of modern humans. This is in contrast to the longer toes found in some earlier hominids. Now, this is fact, so this cannot be disputed. This bone evidence. So that's fascinating in of itself. The big toe, in the particular, is aligned with the other toes, indicating an adaptation for bipedal walking rather than grasping. So again, it has an inline toe. It's not the opposable toe like gorillas and chimpanzees have today. Heel and ankle. The heel bone, the calcaneus, is robust and human-like, providing a stable base for walking. The ankle structure also supports bipedal locomotion, allowing the flexibility and stability needed for walking on 2 feet. The midfoot. Now, this is where it gets very interesting. The midfoot shows a mix of primitive and derived traits. While the overall structure is human-like, there are aspects that suggest Homo naledi retains some climbing abilities. This includes a somewhat more flexible midfoot compared to modern humans, kind of like the Australopithecus afarensis.
Right. So we've got inline toes, and we also have a flexible midfoot.
But we also have an arch, too.
Got an arch, too. Wow, that's weird. That's 3. That's weird.
That's like the round robin of foot structure there, which is rather unique. And that's why this is so groundbreaking. The hands are different a little bit. Their fingers are very long, but their toes are very small.
Right.
Yeah, very interesting.
Inline and not like the, not the thumb hanging off the
Homo
side.
naledi had well-developed longitudinal arches, which are key for shock-absorbing properties of the foot during bipedal walking. This feature further supports the idea that they were adapted for long-distance walking.
Right. I can see that. What throws me off is the mid-tarsal foot flexibility there, or the midfoot flexibility. That's with an arch.
Yep. And again, when it comes to mid-tarsal breaks, non-human primates, modern great apes such as chimpanzees, bonobos, and gorillas exhibit a pronounced mid-tarsal break, which allows them to grasp and climb efficiently. Their foot structure is adapted for an arboreal lifestyle. But that combination of an inline toe with a strong calcaneus and a flexible midfoot would make it ideal for climbing mountain terrain, but not necessarily arboreal, meaning trees.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of people out there that want to, say, hey, we're not looking in trees for Bigfoot. Number one, if something's 400 pounds, they're not going to climb a tree too successfully because that branch is going to go, it's going to break. As we're in youth, as we're young primates, we all climb. So there's no doubt that young Sasquatch or young Bigfoot will climb trees because they're learning about the dexterity of their hands and feet. That's a cognitive function. That's why we have this natural. Like, for example, did you like to climb things as a kid, Chris?
I did. I climbed every tree I could get a hold of. Yeah.
How do you feel about climbing now?
Oh God, no. No.
Nope. That's just our primate instinct. When we're young. Oh, let's climb something.
I have no doubt that if there was something if I was running from a bull or something that was going to kill me, I could probably shimmy up a tree if I had to, but it's going to be in a life or death situation. It's not going to be, I think I'll go climb that tree today. No.
Nope.
I think Bigfoot can climb trees. Certainly they can. I believe they can, but do they? As a routine, probably not.
And it's kind of funny. They have a lot of similarity with the Australopithecus afarensis, aka Lucy.
Right.
one of the traits they have mixed, the afarensis had mixed traits as well. They had a combination of both human-like and ape-like features. Their upper bodies, including long arms and curved fingers, suggest they were also adapted for climbing trees. That would explain the Homo naledi's long fingers and curved fingers.
Yeah.
And again, they too had that combination of bipedalism and arboreal lifestyle.
That was something that I can't quite pull back, Steve. It's been a while since I'd watched this special on the cave, and they were talking about the fingers being curved. Was that a result of something that happened after death, or was that?
No, that's their natural structure, and as you read it right here, and I didn't even know that until I just read that. Mm-hmm. Now is that includes long arms and curved fingers. That's the Australopithecus afarensis. That's not the naledi. So they have that in common. They sound very similar in structure and size to the Australopithecus afarensis. Right. So while I know they're calling it Homo naledi, and I know. But it almost kind of is a mix between the Australopithecus and the Homo. And that's why I'm thinking if we go back a little more, we might find a divergence of where a Sasquatch came from, or a similar line of where a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch may have come off very near the naledi line, because naledi is a Homo, but it shows a lot of similarities to the afarensis, which is an Australopithecine.
Right. I think if we trace it back with the known ancestors, back to the part where we have a flexible midfoot, we should be getting pretty close somewhere, because there's got to be another branch that shot off one way or the other that includes Sasquatch.
Right. Where does it come from? Where does it exactly start? It's such an amazing road map here we have.
Trackway, those were the days.
Geez, I don't know, Chris.
Well, if we go back, let me blow this up so I can see good. I love this chart. That is great.
Yes.
So we go back between 3 and 4 million years ago.
And believe it or not, that's actually a Wiki Commons chart.
Really?
For use. Yeah.
Huh. Where on the scale did this one include Homo naledi?
Yes. Naledi's right here.
Let me find it.
Watch my mouse.
Oh, okay. No wonder. It's right in the middle, right in front of me. No wonder I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So that would be between 2 and 3.
Yeah, and the reason why they have question marks before it and after it is because, and that's the amazing thing about this chart. This was not found on a Homo naledi chart. This is just an actual, a hominin chart.
Right.
And it has question marks on it because they don't know where it came from or what happened to it. Did it develop into something else?
Right.
Where did it come from? It's like this new in the middle of, nothing type thing. It's a hominin. It's a hominin, but it's, has so many commonalities with I think, the afarensis is just phenomenal. I'm going to continue to study this more.
These are fossilized remains. There's not much chance on getting a DNA sample from anything. All that's been gone for probably a couple million years.
Well, they have teeth.
Yeah, inside the teeth, they could bust them up and
very well could be.
Wow, as long as if it's not fossilized, that would be awesome. Be awesome. I would love to, it could be another thing like Denisovan's, bust up. Well, this is part, this and part that. A mixture of DNA.
I don't think it's definitely nothing modern. It does not look modern. It's not big as the modern ones.
Right.
It's but you know, and it has parts of it that's arboreal,
Right.
meaning that it was climbing trees. But can you imagine being on a savanna, being a tsetse fly on the wall per se,
Right.
because it's Africa, and watching a Homo naledi climbing up a tree to watch or gaze upon Homo sapiens hunting?
Right.
You know, how much of their behavior did they pick up from that? There are so many questions to this. It's almost as fascinating as the Bigfoot mystery of itself.
Even chimpanzee, modern chimpanzees are able to learn by watching others.
Right.
So, you know, could these guys have picked up stuff by watching a more advanced species do things?
I was watching a chimpanzee learn Minecraft, playing Minecraft.
Wow.
He knew to hit the button, and he was all playing on a touchscreen. Now, let's think about this for a second. So, what we're looking for in our ancestor of a Bigfoot is something that, you know, it's definitely a break off of something. Did Bigfoot come from Homo naledi? Doubtful, because they have arches. Homo Neanderthals, floresiensis, Homo erectus, heidelbergensis, they all had arches. Homo habilis did not. Homo habilis had the flexible mid-tarsal break, but it had an inline toe, I believe.
Right.
Sometimes you get
I think you're right.
Right. So you have another one. And again, the Homo habilis eventually turned into Homo floresiensis. So if Bigfoot or Sasquatch is a hominin, the Homo habilis may be a good candidate, but I dare say that it's probably about 3 million years ago to 4 million years ago where you would actually see a Bigfoot diverge from that tree there somewhere along the line. It may be a totally separate branch. I don't know. Maybe something, you know, people have come up with all these scientific names for a Bigfoot, but it's going to be either an Australopithecus something or other, or it's going to be an Ardipithecus something or other, or it's going to be a Homo something or other, or it's going to be a paranthropus something or other. It's going to be one of those, because it's going to diverge from one of those trees somewhere along the line. The question is, which one? I dare say that it's more Australopithecine because of the lack of a neck. It has a bill very similar to a gorilla almost in that respect.
It could be from something we haven't found yet. There's still more out there in our ancestry that we don't know about.
Right.
That was found with the Denisovans when they did the DNA sample.
I mean, you think about it, in just the last 20 years, you have or last 15 years, we have the Denisovans and we have the Homo naledi. Yeah. These two new hominins, and then just before that was Australopithecus afarensis.
Right.
So, what's gonna happen in the next 15 years? I'm dying to watch, because this is something that I never thought I'd find fascinating, but as I took a deep dive into this, I always find it fascinating. I am learning along with the rest of you folks, so understand that I am no means up here and you folks are down there. I'm with you on the same level, learning this.
Well, it's funny because a lot of people think that we've learned all there is to know, and that is wrong. The more we find out, the more we learn. Oh my God, it's just nothing like scientists thought before.
Right, exactly.
One of the things that I found that's been fairly modern discovery was the footprints down there in White Sands in New Mexico. They found some fossilized footprints that were fossilized in the gypsum sand, and they were bipedal tracks. And that was all. That was cool, you know. All right, well, we got the early ancestors here, you know. So they started doing some dating from the seeds and stuff that were found in that layer. And you know, we previously thought humans came to North America across the land bridge, you know, when everything was frozen
So
around 10 to 13,000 years ago. Yet these seeds dated 23,000 years ago, or 24,000, 23,000 years ago. So that's about another 10,000 years sooner or
right.
longer than they thought.
Let's step back and let's look at this for one second. Don made a mention that we use clicks and whistles to communicate also, but communication is not language.
Yeah.
So when I whistle at somebody, that's not language. That's just learned behavior. That means that's communication. We're talking about language. And I've seen nothing that would be indicative that a Sasquatch has a language at all. And, you know, again, Scott Nelson used one sample, and that was the Sierra Sounds.
Yep.
Science dictates that you use more than one sample of sound files to generate a language. But he has generated a language from one sample. You cannot do that. He said, well, it may sound low, but it's all hypothesis. And it's all hyperbole because you don't hear any direct words. And one would think that, you know, so it's not indicative of, dogma rage incoming, Steve. What's that?
Yes, Bigfoot can talk. From Gary Johnson Sr.
I
don't know. The ones I saw never said a word. So
well, I would always say that, Gary. Show me the evidence Bigfoot can talk. Give me a recording of one saying, hello, how are you? Because if Bigfoot can say words in their own language, just like I can turn around and say, Guten Abend. Haben Sie einen Vogel?
Well, the thing about, you know, the Sierra Sounds, and I'm not saying one way or the other whether it's real or not, because I don't know. But I have never heard anything like that here in Kentucky. Now that could be, you know, in that area where he's from, that could be their local language that they speak, and maybe the ones in Kentucky are just, you know, mute or stupid. I don't know, but they didn't offer any words to me at any time. The only thing that I caught was after I was about, I don't know, maybe 80 to 100 yards away from them after the sighting. I heard
greetings to Tennessee, Kentucky, Bigfoot. Hello, welcome. And Jay Carey, welcome as well. Blue Ridge Bigfoot. No, I did not attack one of the temples of footery, which is the Sierra Sounds. All I said was, yes, we're gonna exclude Sasquatch Ontario for any vocal excerpts from them. Especially the one that says, "I am not real."
Those types of those recordings they had, those guys were hoaxing. Okay, they
and like I say, I'm not doubting Scott Nelson's intentions. I think he had great intentions. My point being is that as an investigator and having enough purview under science, one would suggest that you cannot develop a language just from hearing one particular recording or a series of recordings from one particular source. You got to have multiple sources for it to be scientifically conclusive. That's all.
Ideally, Ideally, there needs to be a conversation between two individuals.
Right.
And I know they had something similar to that on the Sierra Sounds. And again, you know, I don't know.
I'm hearing nothing there, but the same thing you may hear with chimp chatter and gorilla speak and gorilla chatter or orangutan chatter. Nothing more normal. The tendency for people to become anthropomorphic and create these creatures into more like us is there. And sometimes you
Yes.
can get bit by that romanticism, which is anthropomorphism.
Yeah. You want to attribute human qualities where none may exist, and that's a trap. You gotta. We do that with our pets. We love them. We want to.
And let's face it, a crypto linguist is not a language expert. A crypto linguist is a person who deciphers code word and deciphers them into basically what the decipher is. Crypto linguist sits there and listens to, blau, rot, die Fenster, and then takes those words and tries to put them together to see what they mean in code. That's what a crypto linguist does. Not a person that sits there and hears people go, blah, 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 and then that's a linguist. Not a crypto linguist. A crypto linguist is a guy who sits in a ship, and that's very true, Elton.
Yeah. Okay. I've never personally heard anything like that was on the Sierra Sounds.
Right. If they have a language, if they were like us, then why don't we see their writings?
All right.
We don't come into the forest and see this strange sign up there with writing on it, because that's indicative of languages having written word to the spoken word. That's a language.
But I saw a video you did. It said "I is Bigfoot."
That's true. That's very true. I is Bigfoot.
That could have been a hoax.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Ready!
Oh no, that wasn't the best one. The best one was the crayons and notes. The notes written with crayon. That's the cream of the crop right there.
That's what's indicative of language, is having a written text as well as a spoken word.
Right. How do these things communicate? Let's theorize a little bit. How do they communicate?
Well, I agree. I agree they communicate very much like chimpanzees and gorillas do, and orangutans do. They make sounds, and their sounds may be indicative of certain things. Like, chimpanzees have an alert call. They have a whoop sound, which is a curiosity call. They generate sounds that have meaning. And sometimes they just maybe babble. That doesn't mean they have language.
If they're sharp enough to have language, they would be sharp enough to have fire, I would think.
Right. Well, yes. Because as we know, and they would use complicated tools.
Right.
Because the gene that's responsible, as we know now, the FOXP2 gene, which is in us, that increases the synapses in your brain to retain knowledge, to understand a little more complex issues. Right? So I think that gene also gives us the ability to learn how to make tools, how to apply theories. Because, like I said, the mice were able to learn tasks and learn more tasks, learn them faster.
Right. Just from having that human gene injected.
Right.
Whatever into their DNA.
Right.
However they did it, I don't know.
Right. Well, they spliced that DNA into their gene, and then they, inseminated another mama mouse, and
oh yeah, Blue Ridge Bigfoot.
Right, right.
Children talk before they write. Yeah, that's true.
That is very true. We learn to talk before we write, but eventually we write, don't we? So,
and Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot. Telepathy. You know, there has been arguments for that on this show by a guest. Who was it? Steve?
Michael
Midnight
Merchant.
Walker? Yeah, well, Midnight Walker too.
Yeah.
That's been
Well,
years ago. But
years ago.
blogged on.
So telepathy, that's an interesting one. I think it's just effects of infrasound.
Yeah. I don't know. There's not any other primates that have been proven to use telepathy. You know, so they would be a one-off if they could. And then, you know, if they could think to you, you know, we can't think back to them. You know, they. Gee, what a question.
Well, why would a Bigfoot use telepathy if we can't telepathize back to him?
Yeah.
Unless they're mind readers.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I've tried. I can't do it. But I remember Midnight Walker, you know, saying that.
But telepathy, hold on. In all fairness, if they use telepathy, that means they would understand our language, perhaps. And again, that's anthropomorphistic.
Right.
You're applying a human trait to a creature in the woods. That no evidence to support telepathy. Other facts, people have gotten some ideas in their head that I just felt like it was telling me to get out of there. I can see a bear popping its mouth at me, which is what they do when they get very agitated. And I could take that as that bear's telling me to get out of there.
Well, that's the thing. If Bigfoot could use telepathy and communicate something to your brain directly, wouldn't that be something like Unga Bunga or you know, something else? It wouldn't be, hey, dude, I'm talking to you through telepathy. Can you understand me? No.
Hang on.
Why would you do that if they had human language, knowledge of it? They could just say, hey, dude, how you doing? That's we
I got something brewing in my head.
report. Yeah.
Hang on. Well, let's do remember Karnak the Great?
Oh, from Johnny Carson? Yeah. Who holding a letter up to his forehead. What's the answer?
Dr. Matt Johnson, the Tracheon, and the Janu.
Okay, let's have the question.
The three people that will never be on this show.
Oh, no.
Actually, I think Matt Johnson will be a hoot to have on the show, to tell you the truth.
Oh, of course. Any of them. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll talk to anybody. I don't hold wild-ass claims against anybody if they want to talk about it. Excuse my language.
Right. But I will not entertain... You know, I got to say this, coming from an investigative background, having 2 encounters, talking to hundreds of witnesses that have had encounters, I will not entertain the nonsense that Bigfoot's telepathic. It's not. Because then again, you're giving it more intelligence than we are, a higher brain function than we are, yet it uses no tools, doesn't wear protective clothing in a hostile environment.
No use of fire.
No use of fire. Welcome, PNW Adventures. Welcome.
Good to see you. Thank you. Welcome.
You're absolutely wrong, Mr. Carey. Cantonese is fine dinner and mandarins are oranges. Anyway.
Yeah, Trackway's got it.
Yeah.
That's the idea. Oops, wrong one.
Yeah.
I can't speak Cantonese, therefore I can't think in Cantonese.
I don't. He says he doesn't think in English, but I do. I think in English, and I often wondered and had conversations with my German teacher many, many years ago. I go, do you think in German or do you think in English? And she says, well, and this is very interesting. She said, when I was in Germany, when I lived in Germany, I was born in Germany, raised in Germany, I thought in German.
Yep.
When I came over to the United States, I thought in German for a while, but I had to teach myself to think in English. Now I think in English because that's the language I speak the most.
Right.
And that's why I became and that's how people become very articulate in a language. And that's what I had done for a while. There would be like 3 or 4 hours a day. How I became very good at speaking German was I would think in German for at least an hour or 2 or 3 a day. Just straight think in German. I'm just going to sit there and think in German. Fenster, boom, boom, Auto.
Well, it's kind of weird too. You end up you end up crossing up words because a lot of time, of course, Sandy's from Thailand, and she started out thinking in Thai, then she starts thinking in English because she uses more English, and then while she's speaking, sometimes she'll use a Thai word and with the English, and I just got to where
if you think
nature,
if you think about it, there is a term we use here in the United States that let me hear your spiel.
Mm-hmm.
What's a spiel?
Your proposal, your speech.
Okay.
Argument.
Spiel is a German word for play. It's a German word.
Play.
What's your play? What's your play? Right? So when you hear people say, let me hear your spiel, that's actually a German word that's just kind of snuck its way into, foreign languages, foreign words have,
they do. They do. And when you hear both,
hey, it's a coup. A coup is a French word, coup d'etat.
Right. Well, we've had situations where I'd walk in the kitchen and I was thinking about going out and getting something for supper, getting some, takeout food. And I would ask Sandy, the Thai word for hungry is hue. And I would say, are you Huma? Are you hungry? And it just catches you. You use the word hue as substitutes for hungry. And even though I'm speaking English, it just pops out. Same way, when she's speaking English, a Thai word will pop out every now and then. And,
Sophie is Italian. So, hey, how's it going? We got another new one. Southpaw Pete's picking. Hello.
Southpaw Pete. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Sofa's Italian for couch. Yeah, these little words that sneak in of the language. So
what's the word for sandwich in French? It's sandwich.
What's the word for sandwich in any language? It's sandwich. Give me a sandwich. Anyway, we have had one hell of a good discussion tonight. I know we had a few minutes left over, so
I enjoy this. We've got off talking about food now, but I've enjoyed this. This is a fascinating topic, and I can't stress enough that documentary, Stephen. I can't think of the name of it. I think it was titled by the cave. Oh my gosh, the cave where they did the
Rising Star. Rising Star Cave.
Documentary?
No. The name of the documentary is, I forget actually. It was something very simple.
It was like a Nat Geographic special or something. It's really good. If you get a chance, catch it. Okay, watch it. It's good. The whole time.
We'll certainly be appreciating that, Pete. Welcome aboard.
Yeah. Good to see you, man.
Yeah. My whole goal here tonight was to, if anything, there's topics sometimes that I like to do. I'm not an expert on any of this by any means. I'll be right up front with you. I had to learn as I go. And that's the way I do when I write sometimes, as I learn as I go. And when I prepare these shows, I learn as I go and give you these talking points.
Food for thought.
But I want to give people, number one, we like to educate occasionally, and we like to give people food for thought. take that chart, screen cap that chart. Thank you, Mick.
Mick, you sweetheart. You guys are too kind. Thank you so much. Mick gifted 5 Squatch-D memberships.
Sure did.
You
there
guys are too much. Thank you so much.
Jay did that earlier too. Jay Fretz.
Jay, yeah. Jay Fretz, we love you, man. All of you.
So it's always fun to give people good information, let them rattle it around, let them think about it, let them apply it, let them learn it. That way, when we go out there, we may be small, but our audience is the best. And I know they'll take this stuff. And now we know the difference. And I know the difference of the tree of evolution here with paranthropus, Australopithecines, the Ardipithecines much, much earlier. And of course, the Homo. And of course, learning all about the Homo naledi, which is friggin' fascinating stuff, as well as, Australopithecus afarensis and all the other ones. And now I can actually say these names. Know them.
You're doing better than I am, bud. Homo heidelbergensis.
Homo heidelbergensis.
Yeah, that don't roll off my tongue. My tongue's pretty thick, I guess.
So anyway, but a heck of a show. We will be back. We will be here Friday night. Starting again about last Friday. Like I said, I was starting to do this. And I go, you know what? I want to talk more about this and that and this and that.
Yeah.
And I want to do a little more research on foot structure of certain ones of these ancient humans or ancient hominins. So like I said, sometimes it's quality over quantity. I didn't want to put a half-ass show out there.
Fascinating stuff. I enjoy watching these documentaries about this stuff, and some of the stuff that we've learning and some of the stuff we've learned in the last few years have just turned everything of anthropology.
And the critics will say this has nothing to do with Bigfoot, has all to do about Bigfoot. Because where does Bigfoot come from? It's got to come from somewhere on this chart somewhere.
Right.
Somewhere. So we shall hopefully we'll figure it out someday in my lifetime.
By looking back in the chart and discussing the foot structure similarities between ancestors and Bigfoot, we can figure out roundabout somewhere where it split off.
Right.
Somewhere. But,
got to do your detective work.
Yeah.
So, okay, folks, it has been a remarkable day, and thank you for that, Southpaw Seeds. We plant the seeds of thought. We just have to water them. That's it.
You got it.
I wish I could have done that with my hair many years ago. Put the seeds up there. Have chia hair.
Oh no.
But yeah, it's been fun, Chris. So everybody, I want Chris, do your thing while we're here.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this conversation tonight. I enjoyed talking about this. We were talking about this stuff before the show, guys. 15 minutes, and we're going blah 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 back and forth. I said, well, wait, let's save it for the show.
Yeah.
But thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I always say this because it's true. You guys are the greatest audience we could ever hope for, and we appreciate you each and every one. And we're honored to have you and tickled pink that you would spend Sunday nights with us. Thank you. If it's the first time watching, man, hit that subscribe button. We had some new guys came in here. Join us. Subscribe to the channel. If you like the show, hit the thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. It helps with the algorithm. That's right. Ring the bell. Thank you, Steve. And again, we're honored to have you guys, and thank you so much. You guys are the best that we could ever hope for.
And folks, of course, I want everybody to have a great week. A lot of forward positive momentum stuff going on. That always got me good. As you can see, I'm feeling a little bit better.
Good.
Tomorrow we talk to the pain doctors and see what's going on with that.
Good.
And see if we can't fix that up more permanently. So I'll probably be setting a date for next month some point to do a little nerve burning.
It'll ease the pain. That's all that matters.
Right.
Look
That's it. Got to get my keister back out there a bit. So anyway, everybody have a great week. Stay safe, be healthy, God bless, and of course, keep on squatching. We'll see you all next week, folks. Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern for Bigfoot Friday Nights.
We thank you for being here with us on Squatch-D TV. If you haven't taken the time yet, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And oh yes, hit that notification bell too. We don't want you to miss anything. If you really like our content, you should consider becoming a member, and it's really inexpensive and a great way to support not only the show, but honest Bigfoot research. Everyone have a great week. Be safe and God bless. We will see you all here next time on Squatch-D TV. Keep on squatching.